start talking about C.J. Stroud, who, I mean, I would say it's safe to say is the offensive rookie of the year at this point. Like, I don't really think it's much of a debate between what's happening with Bijan Robinson down there in Atlanta with them not feeding their best players the football, which, I mean, we saw this with Kyle Pitts a couple years ago, but also just like Bryce Young's not doing what he's supposed to do. Like, there's just – it's C.J. Stroud, obviously. The Texans right now are 4-4. They're in the hunt for a playoff spot right now in the AFC. Can the Texans make the playoffs this year?
I mean, yeah, they can because, I mean, it's because of that division. The Jags they have a solid record, but they could take a step backwards, lose a couple games they shouldn't lose at any point. The Colts are the Colts, and the Titans are the Titans. I mean, we saw what C.J. Stroud just did in this game. I mean, it's 1 million touchdowns, 1 million yards, no turnovers. I mean, if anything is going to give a team an opportunity to make a run to make the playoffs, it's guys at the quarterback position playing like that. So I know we thought the Texans were just going to be this bad team that was going to be picking at the top of the draft again at the beginning of the season, but I mean, that's not the case, man. They're looking like they could sneak into the playoffs if C.J. Stroud keeps playing this way.
I mean, I think for starters, C.J. Stroud is by far, like, undeniably, he's been the best, not even just quarterback, he's been the best player in this draft so far at this point. Like, I understand what Jalen Carter's doing in Philly right now, but C.J. Stroud has been the best player on his team, a team that, as you mentioned, very little expectations heading into the season, considering who they are and what they've been going through. They're 4-4, and when you look at the rest of their games this season, like, they do have a fair shot. There's probably some games in here they're going to lose. Like, they're probably not going to beat the Bengals next week. They might not beat the Jaguars again in week 12, but they also have to play the Cardinals. They have the Broncos, the Jets, the Titans twice, the Browns, and the Colts. Like, that's not a schedule that you look at if you're a Texans fan, or if you are the Texans and say we can't make the playoffs. I would go as far as to say is not only has C.J. Stroud been the best offensive player or the best player overall in this draft, not only has C.J. Stroud been a top 10 quarterback this year, the way that people have said it, but like, if you're ranking MVP candidates so far this season, to me, C.J. Stroud's is a top 5 MVP candidate. Like, we haven't seen crazy quarterback play so far this year. Like, we haven't. Like, Pat Mahomes, for his standards, has been quite mediocre.
I mean, but does that mean? See, that's what I don't like that. We were talking about this last night on our show. It's like, just because the quarterback play isn't elite this year doesn't mean we have to lower the standard for the award. Like,
lower. I'm not saying he's going to win it. We're not lowering.
But I'm saying the fact that we're like, hey, C.J. Stroud is a top 5 candidate. You know, part of it is because he's playing quarterback. Like, maybe no quarterback should win it this year. Maybe a defensive player should be in consideration in the top 5.
It's fair, but I mean, he has almost 2,300 yards. He has 14 touchdowns and 1 interception. Like that. That's MVP football.
No, it's not, because last year the MVP put up 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. Is C.J. Stroud going to do that?
We're halfway through the season. C.J. Stroud right now is on pace for 4,500 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 2 picks.
Congrats. He's Justin Herbert rookie year. That MVP level.
Don't disrespect Justin Herbert.
I'm not. I would never be Herbert a social media quarterback. I would never do that. But the thing is, Justin Herbert put up better numbers in his rookie year, and nobody was like, hey, we got to give him the MVP. Like, Patrick Mahomes basically has the same numbers as Russell Wilson this year. So that just means that maybe no quarterbacks just did it this year. Look it up. They got similar numbers.
No, that's fair. I'm not disagreeing. I'm trying to figure out what the point is, though.
The point is like, you saying that he's an MVP candidate. I don't think he should be. Like,
why not?
Because he's a quarterback. We can't just throw him in there.
It's not just because he's a quarterback. It's because of what he's been doing with the foot. Like, he's been playing great football this year. He's been playing
no doubt about it.
Football this year. He has the best touchdown interception ratio this year. He is super efficient. Like, he is looking like
got no interception ratio.
Exactly. Like, he's playing. I'm not saying he's going to win the award, because he's not. He's not going to win the award, and I'm not going to sit here and say that he's top 3, because me personally, the 3 players that I think are top 3 aren't quarterbacks, and we'll talk about that later. But they're not quarterbacks. So I agree. But what I'm saying is, if I'm ranking MVP candidates so far, and I'm looking at what some of these players have done and how they've been doing it and how instrumental they've been, like, you have to think about this relatively. At least I do anyway. Like, Pat Mahomes, we give Pat Mahomes all type of love, and he deserves it because of what he's done so far in his career, rightfully so. But Patrick Mahomes hasn't been playing like Patrick Mahomes this year. To your point, his stats have been comparable, if not almost identical, to one Russell Wilson, right? Jalen Hurts, despite the fact that his team is 8-1, he's not even the best player on his team so far this year. That's AJ Brown. Like, and you look at like other quarterbacks that like look like they were supposed to be doing, like Josh Allen's not in the race. Joe Burrow, just simply because of the slow start, not in the race. Trevor Lawrence, not where people thought he would be in the race at this point in the season. Like, there's just not many quarterbacks that are firmly, undeniably like by week 9, we always have 3 people, at least 3 quarterbacks. It's going to be one of these 3 quarterbacks that's winning the award, right? The only quarterback in the league right now that is undeniably in the MVP race is Lamar Jackson. And he's probably the front runner. Like, he's the only one. Other than that, there's a good argument for any other quarterback. But to me, when you look at the fact that the Texans had no expectations coming into the season because they're the Texans, they have a new head coach, they've got a new everything. They've been without Derek Stingley Jr. for much of this season. They're still winning games. They've won some games against some good teams in convincing fashion, like their blowout against the Jaguars early in the season. C.J. Stroud has been darn near perfect this season. Like, that warrants MVP status and to be in the conversation, despite the fact that maybe his stats aren't on pace for what we've seen recent MVPs do. We also have to remember 2 of the last 5 MVPs were Patrick Mahomes, and he does things all the time that no one sees. And the other 2 was Aaron Rodgers, and his seasons were also quite unprecedented at the quarterback position, considering more so age as opposed to numbers. And then, of course, we had Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson won MVP because I think that was the year he ran for 1,000 yards as well. We hadn't seen a quarterback do that before. It's like we've seen unprecedented. Like, it's difficult. Like, if we're going to be comparing C.J. Stroud's numbers and his projections to the last 5 MVPs, I don't think that's fair. Just simply because the last 5 times we've named an MVP in the NFL, they've done ridiculous things statistically.